Most people are looking at a 2, 3, 4-year time frame. They're not looking at decades. If you look at decades, it's the same pattern that repeats over and over again. Sometimes that pattern takes 10, 20 years. So not all of us are around to experience the whole thing, and we forget, and we don't take the time to look and see what happened in the past. But again, like clockwork, always happens.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop, It's Time to Become a Coffee Consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is unfortunately the final episode of this 5-part series with Carley Garner from DeCarley Trading. Before we get started, folks, just a reminder, if you want to support this podcast, please consider either sharing this podcast with your friends or joining our paid subscription on YouTube or joining our Patreon. That's how you can help us with everything that we're rolling out. We've got an amazing project starting in October, and all the money that does come in through those channels is funneled to those projects, and those projects are being targeted at producers. So, speaking of producers, Carley, we are going to talk about something that feels very strange to talk about because it doesn't feel like it's the season to talk about it, but we're going to talk about stability in coffee because it feels like there's everything but stability in coffee. So how likely is it that, as we're talking in this series about price volatility, how likely is it that stability in the market is going to come in the near term?
I think it's unlikely. The thing about commodities is commodities are a really crazy beast, especially agricultural commodities, because the pendulum swings. It always overswings one way or the other. And when prices are high, production picks up. Everybody steps on the gas. Everybody's trying to make money. The market gets oversupplied. I know there's lots of other things going on, but this is just the big general picture. And then prices drop to a point where there's way too much supply and we go into a big glut. And it just happens over and over and over. It's happened. Again, I'm going to post on my social media 50-year price chart of coffee, and you can see coffee's no exception, literally just like clockwork. And I mean, just like producers are stepping on the gas when prices get high, buyers or consumers tap the brakes. And I know coffee, we all think of it as it's inelastic. Everyone's going to drink coffee no matter what the price is. Demand's always going to be there. The reality is it's not. I know nobody wants to hear this, but consumers are very resilient and they adapt and they adjust. So let's say that we really do run out of coffee and that's it. Consumers are going to move to tea or matcha, or maybe we take cocoa beans and spike them with caffeine. I don't know, but it'll happen. That's just how the nature of the beast. I'm not saying that coffee is the same as tobacco, because obviously it's not. Coffee's not in the same category health-wise as tobacco, but just imagine if you were a tobacco farmer in the 70s or 80s. No, if someone told you in 20, 30 years, people are going to be smoking a plastic vape, nobody would have believed you. And now, we literally don't know what's around the corner. Who knows? So we can't assume demand's always going to be there. The prices are always going to come back to an equilibrium and then overshoot, and it's just going to happen over and over again.
So, shock horror, stability is not going to happen in coffee anytime soon. No. Do we see the extremes getting wider? Like the highs getting higher and the lows getting lower, or not? So
it always feels that way, right? When I first started talking to you, coffee was at like 90, and that felt like just the depths of despair.
Yes.
And I feel like in the next year or so, you and I will probably be talking about $3 or $3.30 coffee. I think that's a very real possibility, and we're going to be like, we're going to think it's the most insane thing we've ever seen. But the reality is, again, if you look at a 50-year chart, we've been here before. We've done it before. It happens over and over. It's repetitive. The thing is, most people are looking at a 2, 3, 4-year time frame. They're not looking at decades. If you look at decades, it's the same pattern that repeats over and over again. Sometimes that pattern takes 10, 20 years. So not all of us are around to experience the whole thing, and we forget, and we don't take the time to look and see what happened in the past. But again, like clockwork, always happens.
Let's say, so if we are talking about stability, but in the farm, people are looking at historic changes. They're looking at climate, they're looking at labor, they're looking at all of these kinds of things, problems that they legitimately feel cannot be solved. Do we usually see this kind of shifting translating into what happens into a futures market? Or do we see a market adapt, and as you're saying, the consumer, let's say we don't have coffee anymore, they'll just move on to, I don't know, something else. And producers just have to adapt. They have to find something else to plant. Is that typically how we're expecting something like this to go, if I read you correctly?
Correct. I know it sounds crazy, and trust me, I love coffee just as much as anyone else, but yes, that's the cycle. I brought up in a couple segments ago, I brought up natural gas. If you remember 2 years ago, natural gas, like Europe was, everybody thought everybody in Europe was going to, freeze to death. We didn't have natural gas to supply Europe. We were going to ban fracking. Pipelines are blowing up. I mean, it was complete disaster, and nobody would have said, guess what? Natural gas is going to 190, and we're going to have way too much of it, and we're actually going to burn it because we have so much, we don't know what to do with it. So it always seems like the end of the world at the peaks and the valleys, and it never is. There's always some new story, some new development, something changes to get the pendulum going the other way, and then the prices correct themselves. The markets are self-correcting. They always will. It's in the heat of the moment, it never feels like it's going to be like that, but it always does. And maybe one time it won't, and then we'll be like, wow, it'll be a super shocker. But I haven't seen it yet. I've been doing this for a long time, and I haven't seen it yet. So we'll see.
The ICE exchange is supposed to predominantly do Arabica, right? The C market. So we have seen a shift from governments encouraging farmers to plant Robusta instead of Arabica. So that's it's different than Arabica.
Right.
That doesn't get traded on the ICE exchange. What is going to happen if climate change shifts Arabica from being the predominant or the leading one to Robusta? What happens then? I think you and I have talked about this a couple of years ago.
I don't remember. We probably did. We talk about a lot of stuff.
We really do.
So, there actually is a Robusta futures contract on the ICE exchange, but nobody currently trades it. So let's assume that that's what happens. Basically what will happen is all the liquidity and all the action will switch from that contract over to Robusta. So to be honest, on the futures side of things, it probably won't be that wild of a transaction. I'm sure this would happen over years, not days. So I think it would be pretty seamless on the futures side of things. I can't speak to the cash side or the growing side. I mean, that's just outside of my wheelhouse, but there is a mechanism in place for that to happen. Who knows? Maybe the exchange saw this coming years ago, and that's why they have both of them listed. I don't know, but they do have a contract. No one trades it at the moment, but maybe they will.
So they could. Another thing that producers keep asking me is, isn't there a way that we can remove our dependency on the C market or the ICE exchange by trading more in the cash market in what we call relationship buying?
Sure.
Is that likely to create more stability for producers?
Well, I'm not. So I can only speak to what I know, like in the U.S., like U.S. farmers, corn, soybeans. So they're different products, but the same general idea. Most farmers are not interacting with the exchange. They use the futures and options to hedge their price risk, and some of them, quite honestly, are speculating in addition to what they have going on. But they're not making delivery to the exchange or anything like that. They're literally selling to their grain bins, their local grain bins, and there's usually a big price difference between what the futures is showing and what they can get locally. And so that's obviously a little bit of a complication, but I don't think it's necessary to use the ICE exchange to facilitate any of it. I think you could skip them, but even if you did, I'm not sure it would change the mechanics of the market that much because, like I said, most grain traders aren't delivering through the exchange, but the prices are still tied because the exchange contracts are written in a way that they're tied to those cash market prices. So I don't think it would really change any of the stuff that we've got going on with speculators and all the other things that happen.
I'll give you an example where it could. So specialty coffee requires a lot of labor. Instead of just strip picking everything, all the cherries, whether they're green or whether they're red, in the commercial market, coffee that would go to the C market, they'll strip pick it or they'll pick it up off the floor. Let's speak specifically about Brazil. And they'll take all of that coffee off, and the quality is not necessary to pay attention to. Whereas, so that's for the commercial market. In the specialty market, you're very particular about making sure that you're picking the right cherries, and you may do a couple of passes in a row or in the crop. So when the C market does what it's doing right now, coffee producers are going to turn around and say, well, listen, if I'm going to get $2.50 for commercial coffee and I'm going to get $2.50, $2.60 for specialty coffee, why wouldn't I try and lock in contracts for as long as I can on the commercial market? And given that labor is so hard to get access to, maybe I'm better off just sending all my coffee to the commercial market. Does that shift things? Does the supply then, so if it's not going to the cash market like the specialty market and we end up with more coffee in the commercial market, does that start to impact price? Does that start to impact things?
I mean, honestly, I don't think it does. I think it's obviously from what I'm not an expert in this particular side of the business, but it's my understanding that the ICE exchange has delivery points, not just in the US or, exchange points,
all over
but
the world,
all around the world. So I don't think, other than if we're talking about the inefficiencies or maybe the efficiencies of those particular delivery points, I don't think it would really change the overall price. In the big picture, we have this much supply and this much demand, and it really doesn't matter how it's all shifted around. Like we've seen this kind of in soybeans, where Brazil is becoming a really big producer, and it's taken some of the U.S. Producers offline. But it's in the end, the supply demand's the same. It doesn't matter who grows it or who buys it or who sells it. It's all the same big picture. In the long run, in the short run, you can obviously see some disconnects, but in the big picture, I don't think it changes things. But I mean, again, we don't know exactly how it's going to work out until it happens, and then that's when we learn from those sorts of things. So you probably know more than I do on that.
Well, we'll see, because it's a thing that like these are new questions that I've never had. In the almost 8 years we've been doing this podcast, I've never had this particular scenario where people are saying to me, I guess because the price hasn't been this high in that time, but people are saying, like, we're going to stop specialty as long as the price is this price, and some people can lock this price in for a couple of years. So if they can do that, we may lose coffee from the specialty market into the commercial market.
That makes sense. So if I understand correctly, as the commercial market moved higher, the specialty market prices really they were already elevated, and they really didn't move up. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally there won't be the supply, and the price that you can sell specialty coffee to the market. So a cup of specialty coffee, the amount that you would have to pay to get access to the very little specialty coffee that we anticipate is going to be available, it's prohibitive. It just won't be a value proposition for the end consumer.
Right.
Which will end up meaning, if this does play out that way, specialty coffee roasters and specialty coffee shops, because they can't get access to specialty grade coffee at an affordable price, they will either have to pivot or go out of business. So they either adapt and change their value proposition, or they will end up going out of business. And this is where we start to see some moves and shakes in the industry on a whole. So this is where things I think are going to get interesting as when we start to look at, there's a specialty market where people are buying, so they're using the commercial market to hedge against the specialty market.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm learning for you. This is all interesting to me. A side of the business I never really get exposed to.
It's kind of wild. So Carley, I, again, have learned an incredible amount from you. Thank you very much for taking time out on a Saturday morning. And thank you for picking up the phone every time I'm calling. I'm like, we need to understand coffee prices. Please help. We need to understand what's going on. So thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate it. Everybody out there that's listening to this is like, I understood a lot more than I thought that I would. And people are going to probably take a risk. I mean, if there's ever been a time to start thinking about it, this is the time to be thinking about it. So if they do want to get in contact with you, how do people find DeCarley Trading?
So our website is DeCarleyTrading.com. It's DeCarley trading.com. You can also find me on social media. Just search Carley Garner or DeCarley Trading and we'll come up. And again, as a reminder, I'm going to post some pictures, some copy charts on my social media, so you can go back and kind of see what we're dealing with and see just how difficult. There's a reason that everybody in the industry feels that it's unstable, and there's a reason that they feel like it's difficult to manage their business operations and budget, because it is. And I'll give you this chart, and it'll give you hopefully some incentive to just be a little more aware of the volatility and maybe even hedge.
Amazing. We'll have links to everything in the show notes, folks. Remind everyone what your book is.
So I've written multiple books. Probably the most appropriate for this audience is A Trader's First Book on Commodities. It's the very ground zero of futures contracts and options markets and things like that.
Okay. Amazing. And it's on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yep.
Okay. Fantastic. We'll have links to everything. And it's all on your website as well, right?
It is. Yep.
Amazing. Carley, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Would you do me the honor of signing off for us for this series? With the peace, love, and peanut butter?
Oh, peace, love, and peanut butter? Did I do it right?
You did.
Did I fail?
Right.
I failed.
No, you couldn't fail. Every time we do this, you do the same thing. You're like, what? Huh? Peace, love, and peanut butter.
That's like the hardest question you've asked all day.
Fantastic. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.